videos are brought to you by DiceyGoblin.com, online board game retailer, where every board game is an award-winning board game. Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're going to be doing the Star Wars Imperial Assault review. I have not gotten a gameplay video out yet. I'm still working on that, trying to decide if it's going to be a campaign mission or a skirmish mission. And so we're still working on getting a gameplay for you, but we will get one out very soon. I know it's out of order, but I think it'll be all right. Before we go any farther, I want to mention our brand new sponsor for Board Online, Board Offline, DiceyGoblin.com. If you have not checked this website out yet, you need to give it a shot. It's an online retailer for board games. They focus mainly on board games that have received awards of some type, and so you're pretty much guaranteed that every board game you find there is going to be high quality. On top of that, they offer free shipping everywhere in the United States. They offer 10% off of board game orders $100 or more. And the coolest part about this website is that a portion of the proceeds, whenever you purchase a game from them, goes to what they call nerdy fundraisers of some type. And you can find out more information on that just by going over to DiceyGoblin.com, and they have all that information there for you. So by all means, check them out. And now let's get into the review. Okay, so starting with originality. With this game, obviously it's based off an IP, so there's not really any originality there. The game itself, the system is based off of Descent 2nd edition. Heavily based off of that. So there's not a whole lot of originality there. There's obviously some changes. I haven't played Descent myself, but I've done enough research on this game and seen how similar they are, watch reviews of Descent. So I know that there are a few changes in, some of the movement and some stuff like that. But for the most part, this is Descent in terms of gameplay, the mechanics, all that sort of thing, or the mechanisms. So, there's not a whole lot of truly original gameplay or ideas in terms of the characters. Now, I do think that probably most of the heroes, as far as I know, they're original. I'm not real up to date on the lore behind Star Wars or any of the canon, so I don't know for sure that the 6 heroes that come in the game are original for the game, but I think they are. So basically what I did, with this, I gave it a 0.5 out of 2 for originality. It's not a really good score, but like I said, they didn't create a whole lot of stuff that was new for this. Now, there's some things that they certainly have done. The skirmish mission is really cool. The campaign is really fun. It's just not original. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go with a 0.5 out of 2 for originality. With aesthetics, now this is entirely different from originality. I love the look of everything in this game. From the characters, the hero sheets, the artwork on those, to the layout of them, the tiles themselves are beautiful. There's so much going on these tiles. Even when you first look at the desert tiles, you kind of like, oh, the colors are all kind of samey, but that's what happens in the desert. But even those, you've got this broken down, some sort of machine there with the tracks, and you got a ship on this one, and then you got the interior tiles. I love the blues and the reds on these interior tiles. There's a lot of great stuff, and there's so many of them. It's so much variety as far as that goes. The way the figures look themselves, the real clean sculpts of these guys, they really stand out really well. Even like the probe droid that is, I don't know. That's not a machine that necessarily has a lot of distinguishing features. It's not like one of the other droids that's really stands out by themselves. This is one that's going to be obviously there's a whole bunch of probe droids, but even they really the molds. It feels like this guy's just kind of floating along. And then the artwork on all the cards is great. The graphic design is very clean, very easy to read on on these cards. Just the way they've been able to make it very clear. You've got 12 deployment points and then 6 for reinforcement, and there's these little tick marks down here. There's 2 guys in a squad. It's so clean and well done. But every single type of card, and there's so many different types of cards, the graphic design is fantastic on all of them. I don't have any complaint on any of them. It's so easy to understand. I mean, with the weaponry, it'd be easy to clutter up trying to say, okay, you can do one upgrade on this card, and here's its surge ability and stuff. But instead, it's just nice and clean. You got your surge right here, and this little arrow down here for the upgrade shows you can do 1 upgrade, or on a different weapon, it's going to be 2 arrows to show you can do 2 upgrades. It's just, I really am very impressed with the graphic design here in terms of the ease of use. On the tokens with the consoles and the crates. I mean, obviously the crate is basically just a square, but it still does its job so well. The consoles are really cool. I actually really like the strain symbol there. It's just there's nothing I can really complain about with, and believe me, I tried when I was drawing up my rubric for this game. I tried to think of some stuff to complain about in terms of the aesthetics of this game. I mean, and probably my absolute favorite part as far as just looks go are these dice. I love the way they look, the way they roll. The symbols are so clear, and they are etched as well, so you don't have to worry about the symbols wearing off. So all that being said, obviously I'm a big fan of the aesthetics, and and really the etching, I guess, really goes more to component quality. But regardless, 3 out of 3 for aesthetics. I just can't think of a single thing I don't like about the way the game looks, and there you go, 3 out of 3. All right, moving on to component quality. Similarly to aesthetics, I have a real hard time thinking of anything that I feel like could have been done better as far as component quality goes. The one thing that I was able to think of is some of the sculpts, the thinner pieces are a little bit warped just slightly. And that's something that is easily fixed with warm water and kind of re-bending it the way it needs to be. The only ones that I really saw that with are the guys that are carrying Vader with his lightsaber, Diala with her, it starts off as a staff, and I guess later on in the game it can become a lightsaber if you want it to. The probe droids probably are a little bit, I mean, they're just barely standing on the tips of those 3 legs. So I guess, you might have to worry about some fragility there maybe, but I haven't had any problem with it. So really, I think that for what they're doing with this game, for obviously you got to have both the staff that she's got, the lightsaber, the probe droids. I mean, that's just how they are. They're floating around. The only other option I guess they could have done is, I've seen in some games they've got like a clear pole that the droid would be sitting on to make it look like it's actually in the air. But I think the way they did that is fine as well. So no complaint there. The game does come with these tokens for certain characters that are included in the story, but that you don't have the sculpts for them. And so, for instance, IG-88, obviously you can get the IG-88 sculpt along with some extra stuff. But this is kind of, that's to be expected in a game that's bringing you this much content with this much plastic. It's not the first game that Fantasy Flight has done it with. Again, they did it with Descent, with the lieutenants in that game. So that I don't feel negates from the component quality. It's it's kind of something that if they're going to bring you this much content and keep the price from going over, into some ridiculous amount over $100, that is kind of the cost. So, the cards are what cards are these days. They're not too thin or anything. They're very good quality. I sleeve all my cards, but these are what you would expect. The guides are all 4 of the guides are very clearly laid out. It makes sense that they did 4 different guides. And the best part about this whole thing is this rules reference guide. They spent a lot of time getting into some of the nitty gritty, niche scenarios there with the rules reference guide, so that's fantastic. And then people say, well, you only get 1 campaign log for the game, which is what you need to carry on a campaign. But you know what? You can print copies of it out from their website for free. So as long as you have access to a printer on the internet, you've got more of those. Everything in this game is high quality. The cardboard is really good quality. Not only that, but it's a modular board and it has the links that go together, which I think is very important. One of my favorite games of all time, Mansions of Madness. It's a modular board, but all the pieces are just straight edge. So you fit them together, but somebody bumps the table, bumps the board, and all the pieces kind of slide off of each other. The interlocking, interconnecting boards or pieces to make the board, I think, are key in a game like this, especially when you're getting down to pieces as small as these. Again, as I said a moment ago, the dice are very nice. They feel nice and they've got a good decent weight to them. They're etched, so you don't have to worry about, as I said a moment ago, them wearing off. Or even if they do, you can still tell what's going on because they're etched into it. It's not stickers. With the threat tracker, a threat and round tracker, it moves easily, but also has some resistance, so you don't have to worry about, like in King of Tokyo, with those, generally speaking, if you move them around too much, the wheels will turn around without you meaning them to, and you might lose track. This one, they turn easily, but also have some resistance, which helps to keep the numbers, where you want them. So with component quality, a 4 out of 4 is what I'm giving it. I really think that this is about as high quality a game as you can get without throwing metal pieces into the mix, and then you end up with a really expensive game. So 4 out of 4 for component quality. All right, so thrill factor. This game has, as long as you keep it moving, it's really exciting. There's, you've got everybody that's trying to work the angles, and the rebel players are trying to figure out just, how many Imperial figures are about to come out in the next wave, and they're wading their way through, just chopping them down, and meanwhile the Imperial players are just, the Imperial characters are trying to hold on for dear life, hoping for that next wave of reinforcements. And to me, it feels like either side for most missions could win at any time. Like, it's been pretty close for me on most missions whenever I've been playing in the campaign. Now, I will say that there's been 1 or 2 campaign missions where it was a runaway victory for one side or the other. And it could just be that some poor decisions are made. For the most part, though, it keeps it close. The upgrade stage at the end of the campaign is really great as well. Keeps things interesting. You're always able to, you're pulling in new powers, you're pulling in new weapons and upgrades for those weapons. It helps to keep the campaign missions from feeling constantly samey, and to give you more things to look at and more tactics to try to use. So I like that a lot. The skirmish mode also initially can feel a little overwhelming when you're trying to build your decks. Not so much with the characters, but with the command cards. And you might want to find a way to organize the command cards. For instance, I've got all the command cards that go to specific types of characters, like brawlers and troopers and stuff like that, and then all the ones that go to any figure, and then all the ones that go to specifically named, such as Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, all that. So, once I separated out, it became easier to build command decks because otherwise it was really kind of overwhelming because of the sheer number of command cards in the game. But once you get that figure out how you're going to build your command decks, you get into the skirmish missions, it starts to be very, very interesting. And those are a lot of fun because that's just an all-out brawl battle. You're not having to worry about what's going on in the campaign guide and stuff like that as the Imperial player. So for thrill factor, like I said, most of the time it's really fantastic. Sometimes, it gets bogged down a little bit with decision making, a little bit of AP, especially towards the end of some of the campaign missions. But I'm going to give it a 2.8 out of 3. Really high score for thrill factor. Not quite perfect, but it is very good, and this game is just so much fun when you're playing either way, campaign or skirmish. And so finally, that brings us to gameplay. I think at this point you can kind of see where this is going as far as how I feel about the way this game works. There's so much variety in the characters, so much attention to detail in the theme of the game, and all of that comes out in the gameplay. You are constantly looking for upgrades in the campaign. In the skirmish, you're constantly, every time you play, trying to figure out how to tweak your command deck just right to fit the characters that you've got, because depending on which characters you pick is going to open up different possibilities with the command cards because of the way they have restrictions on which type of character can use them. You're going to have to make the decision in skirmish mode. Am I going to want to go with high cost characters but fewer of them, or lots of low cost characters? It really adds some interesting choices to what you're going to do when you do the skirmish mode. And then once you get in there and you've got the two different teams coming at each other, it really, really just feels like this back and forth battle constantly going at each other. And as you start losing guys, that basically equates to the other player having a couple more turns than you, and you feel that. And so then you have to make the decision, am I going to go after victory points based on what the mission for that skirmish mission has, or am I going to go after them by killing off the other player? And usually it's a little bit of a combination of the two. And there's just so many interesting gameplay choices, so many interesting gameplay moments in the campaign guide where the rebel player might feel like he's really moving along really nicely, and then he does something that triggers a security alarm goes off or whatever, and all of a sudden the Imperial player is instructed to drop in a whole bunch more reinforcements right there in the middle of that player's turn. It's just so much fun, so much variety too in the missions and the maps and the skirmish missions. Now, the one thing I will say is that in the campaign missions, the objectives, I don't know that there's as much variety as there could have been. I think that's something that maybe they'll expand on in the future, I hope, because some of the campaign mission objectives are a little bit similar, but the maps and the story that goes along with them and the different characters that are used, I think, kind of mitigate the fact that maybe the objectives, when you really boil it down, are not the best in terms of variety. But with that one little kind of complaint there, I'm giving gameplay a 4.75 out of 5. So really high marks across the board except for originality, which I think is to be expected from a game that uses a previously existing IP and then takes a previously existing set of game mechanisms and combines them together. So all those scores combined bring this game to an 88.52%, which is a great score on my scale, verging on awesome. I really, really enjoy this game. It's probably going to be in my collection forever. Great game. Give it a shot if you haven't. If you already enjoy Descent style games and now you want something in a sci-fi setting, there's no need to even try it. Just go buy it. This game will not disappoint. if you're already predisposed to enjoying that style of game. So there you have it. That's my review for Star Wars Imperial Assault. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I'm on Board Game Geek. I'm on Twitter @boredoffline. I'm on Board Game Blender about every other week. So until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.